everybody? It's DJ Troy 23 back here with another YouTube video. This time we're going to be working on bills and budgeting. Once again, I'm just giving my personal experiences of what I've been doing with my finances, things I've been doing to analyze and get to a nice level to where my bills are managed. I still have a little bit more personal freedom. And at the end of the day, if it helps you out, like, comment, and subscribe on the bottom of this video. So let's get right into it. So how I end up managing my bills, I'm going to be putting on the side of me, little screenshots of what I've done on my iPhone of making sure my bills are all set. But for this example, I'm just going to be using my June expenses just to show what really goes through my thought process and how I end up paying the bills. One of the things is that I do live by myself, so a good majority of all of my bills are, minimal just to one person. I would say, just for example, to double it from what you're seeing today, and then just factor in the fact that you might have kids, you might have other dependents, people around your family, that these expenses might not work in, a one-person household. But, if you take some little keys from it that helps you out, then all the better, okay? Right now, we have the rent. Rent right now for me is $12.50 plus the fees, so that'll be $12.90 every first of the month. I list that down there on the drop. Rent insurance is also included. I do believe I live in a floodplain. That's the reason why I've never really had renter's insurance, but it is compulsory for me to have this insurance on my house. So that's another $25. At the time, in the early part of June, my insurance for my car, it's a 2013 Nissan Altima. Beautiful car. I got it through Carvana. Shout out to Carvana for making the process very simple, very easy for me. Only thing I ran into is because I originally moved down from New York. A lot of things that's been going on. I don't believe I can have insurance in Texas until I get some things set together. So right now I have New York insurance, but at the time, June was at $225 for the insurance. Car note itself is around $225. I've gotten into a habit from my previous car ownerships of paying more than the minimum. So every month, instead of paying $225, I end up paying $350. And also from a little bit of help from my parents. Don't feel ashamed. That's the one thing I will say. A lot of people feel as though daddy's money or mommy's money don't really help. But at the end of the day, they're your parents. They have their own personal expenses, and if they have a little bit of extra change that they can help you out with anything, they can help you out. So, a majority of the car note is me and my mom included. The Capital Regs, the reason I say Capital Regs is one of my first credit cards I used on the regular. Those are little keys that I use just to know and to know, I don't jump from card to card and just be like, all right, I'm gonna use this for emergencies, use this. I have one that I use regularly for grocery purchases, gas, things you can get rewards off of. It's a good rewards card. That comes in at a minimum of $25 a month, but obviously I try to pay it in full or a majority, so that I've learned that 30% of your credit card utilization is where you want to stay below. Anything higher is going to sink your credit score, and trust me, I know. Phone bill, I enjoyed the luxury of, working for a company that's been very good to me. So my phone bill typically is around $150 a month. I do have my mom, my dad, and my little cousin on the phone bill, and we all manage it in a way that, even though I am the account owner, it's more so that, people get their bills within the middle of the month, and I just make a general plan to prepay and stay ahead of the curve. And now, when I do say ahead of the curve, what I do mean is when you are behind on your bill payments, you are behind the curve. So just think of it just as like a simple bell curve, like half of the bell curve, you're behind the curve. You're always trying to play catch up to get back on the curve. So if it's one thing that you can take from this is that you always want to either stay or ahead of the curve of being, prudent, paying whatever bills you can at certain times. Not all bills are going to be paid at the same time. That is the one thing I want to stress. Not all of them are going to be paid at the same time. It took me at least 3 months to get on the curve, and then this past June, ahead of the curve, once all of my finances and all my averages ended up lining up to pay a month ahead of time. So if you do follow me on Facebook, the conversation I had with my mom's about paying all the bills ahead of time, just kind of like okay, it's what you're supposed to do. So those are one of the things I would say. If you are behind in your bills, take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and then build yourself back to getting ahead of the curve, which leads to how I line up some of these payments before I get into the utility bills and the internet, which essentially phone bills and internet technically are utility payments, so you can just all lump that together in what you have for your household expenditures. But I remember a professor way back in the day that told me that you never want to look at a mountain. This was a flight instructor that I had that told me, in terms of my training, never to look, because everybody has that dream goal of being an airline pilot, but it is a gigantic mountain to get to that point. So the way he told it to me was, think of yourself starting on a beach, because you're on a beach, then you have the forest ahead of you, and you have the plains, and then you have the rise into the mountain until you finally get to the top of the mountain. So I took that life lesson as something I can apply to finance as well. If you look at your bills as one gigantic lump sum of payments that you have to pay to different companies, it's going to lead to a lot more stress immediately. So one of the things you want to do is break them down to what I was saying from before. Say the phone bill was around $150, that's the beach. Then you'll have, leading up to the forest, a collection of different bills where it's like, you have your internet, which to me was $65, and then you have your electricity, which is $75, and then you're leading gradually. It doesn't have to be in terms of small to big, but in the way that you can manage it in the days that it's due. That's what I looked at it as, because everybody knows rent's due on the 1st. So, as long as you can take care of all of the small things from the previous month, and a lot of things happen when you are, back the previous month. So even think of the terms of, you haven't even reached the beach yet. That goes back to the curve we were talking about earlier. You haven't even reached the beach, so you can take the steps to lead towards the mountain. That's the things I start looking at with my bills and the way I structure everything, especially with credit. I was completely averse to credit at first. I had 3 credit cards throughout college that I had to cancel because of college. It's more of a build. I wouldn't say rebuilding, because even then with my credit, I was able to get a car. I was able to get an apartment. So it wasn't anything massively impeding me from doing anything. But if you do not have credit and you look to build credit, start small. Get a card that works for you, that gets you a lot of rewards points, something that is within your bank initially. Start with your own bank initially, because at the end of the day, that's where your money is, if you do have money in the bank. The only reason I say that is because people like to still hide their money in mattresses, but it's not going anywhere. So one of the things too is, when you're building up your credit, that goes back to that 30% utilization. Don't throw everything on there. If you do have the cash, don't throw everything on there, and get more frugal. Get more, not so much tight with your money, but it's a term that I like to call being economic with your spending, okay, or being economical with spending. Those are one of the many things where you start seeing people saying, oh, I started making coffee at home, I started cooking at home, and those work, but then things fluctuate. So a lot of times when you are, sometimes eating out, or sometimes, making food for yourself at home, just pay attention to the little things. Because like I said in the previous videos, my expenses are mostly tied to the fact that I go out all the time to go eat. I can cook. At the end of the day, I try to not overcook. That's another habit, that another thing I've noticed with a lot of people. It's not just that you cook for yourself, or you try to meal prep certain times. You're not going to be eating the same salmon or chicken 5 days straight, okay? That's my personal take on it. But if you are one that is looking to cut your expenses in food, then that would be an option I would say to go. Overall, cost of living is pretty reasonable. At the end of this, you end up seeing that my actual expenditures were about $300 less than my estimates, just because I put estimates of the total. Once again, I put an estimate of the total mountain and then the hill that I end up having to climb, which is the actual. So that gives me a good sense of, working one job, just having enough to pay, because I have had times where I'm working 2 jobs just to stay broke. There have been those days. So one of the things is that I am thankful for, getting to this position in life. It's just one of the things I want to take from this situation is, building up everything right now led to the original videos of the stock investments and also leading to my personal freedom. My personal freedom of movement is tied to the fact that living in New York, you cannot leave the house without spending money. So learning a lot of those things, understanding that at the end of the day, you're going to be spending a lot, doing a lot of things, and people will say, well, why spend money on things like that? Personal happiness, personal freedom. Tell them that. So I hope that I've given you good insight on what's been going on personally, just for everything that's been going on outside. But financially wise, you can work, you can do it too. I am just a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, so if I can end up doing it, you can do it too. That's one of the things I always end up saying. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Shout out to all my other people that are doing their YouTube videos. Like you got Mikey Goodfellas 7. He's doing his thing on Last of Us 2. My friend Lisa Patel, she's doing her things with her makeup tutorials and a lot of her hair tutorials, and a lot of different videos should be coming out with soon. Also just like to shout out the ITK brand. They're working on a lot of different things in terms of clothing and lines and everything like that. And shout out to all my musicians that are also doing their thing out there. Lola Bristol, Malik McFly, Mel Beats, a whole bunch of people that I've taken notice to and noticed that they've worked very hard on what they see as their craft. Okay. Next up for the videos is probably going to be DJing. Probably going to be a little bit of different ideas and theories when it comes to music, so we can have a little bit more fun and move away from the serious money talk now. So, all right, you guys have a nice day. Once again, it's CJ Troy 23. Peace.